Hello everyone, very good morning. Today we are going to cover the flow interview questions, and these are very important because in flows they do not ask you to write flows, but they ask interview questions. Okay, so from the question point of view, this is going to be a very important session. Now that we are a little bit comfortable with flows, I think many of the questions will come to us naturally instead of me forcing those questions onto you. So from last 3, 4 sessions, we have been doing basics of flow, different types of flow, how we do those flow, and we were trying to get comfortable with the syntax, or you can say the designer, flow designer. Now, let's cover a few questions and see if we are able to answer them or not. Okay. We'll start with question one. What is flow? See, many times you get this in an interview that what type of flows we have. Have you ever worked on flow? The question will mostly start like this. Have you ever worked on flow? Then you will say yes. Then they will ask you what type of flows you have worked on. Then you will say, okay, I have worked on record triggered flow or screen flow, but there are different types of flows available in Salesforce, like auto launch flow, like platform event trigger flow. So this is a kind of open-end question which you get, and the answer you can expand as per how you have worked on flow, how much you know about flow. Okay. But an ideal student will explain all the types of flows and then what type of flows he has mostly worked on or she has mostly worked on, and then we'll wait for the follow-up question. Okay. So what is flow? Flow is an automation tool that enables business to automate the complex processes without writing code. Okay. And there are, on a broader level, we have screen flow and we have record triggered flow. Record triggered flow will be launched automatically on the creation on the DMLs basically, whereas screen flow is dependent on user input and will work according to how we want to trigger it. Okay, and couple of other types of flows also you will be explaining. Anybody has any doubt in this question? Then a follow-up question on this is, what are the advantages of flows? Okay, so the advantages of flows is obviously to because it gives the flexibility to write an automation without writing code. It is you can say it is a easy tool which also increases the efficiency because it takes shorter time to write flows rather than a big trigger. Okay, so it improves efficiency, it improves the it reduces the time you take to take to develop those things and later on to maintain those things. Okay, and then it also reduces errors as in, because everything is on your screen, you can manage it pretty well, so you will be able to handle those errors as well. You need not to be worried about code maintainability. That is also one of the advantage you get. When everything will be improved, obviously your customer service will also be improved, and whatnot. Advantages are so many. As per what you want to say, you can say whatever. Okay, but the most important question from this is when to choose flow over apex and when to choose apex over flow. That is the most important question which many people get in interviews. Okay, and we will cover that. What is flow? Why we need it? We've got it. What happens when you delete a flow in Salesforce, or is flow recoverable? Okay, so this is one of the question our student got last session in the last batch. When you delete a flow in Salesforce, the flow and all its versions are permanently removed and can't be recovered. And any automation or processes depending on the flow will no longer function. Okay, so if you delete a flow, it will permanently be removed. Okay, that is the answer of it. Okay, and just a second. You guys are able to see this screen comfortably. Like, do I need to increase the font or something? Or it
No, it's comfortable.
perfect? What are the data type restrictions to consider when sending information from one screen to another flow in Salesforce? Okay. This must be added by one of my student, okay, because I have not added it. When sending information from one screen to another, there are certain data type restriction. Input and output variable in the flow can be defined such as text number. Okay, that means that data type okay. So obviously data type should be compatible between both the screens. If you are passing one data from one screen to other screen should have the same data type to receive it. Okay, and some data types are not supported from screen input or output variable. Like the currency data type is not supported for input variables in flow screen. So go through this answer. Okay. What are the different types of flow? This is very important question. As I told you earlier, you have to explain all type of screen flow, schedule triggered flow, record triggered, platform event, or auto launch. Okay, on a higher level, as I told you on the very first flow session, is that there are screen flow, there are auto launch flow. Okay, and this record triggered flow comes under the auto launch flow only. Okay, but you can explain it like this. We have screen flow, schedule trigger flow, record triggered, platform event, auto launch, flow orchestrator. Although flow orchestrator is a different thing, it's a combination of couple of flows, but you can also mention it here. Okay, so you get this interview question, you explain all type of flows, okay, and get the maximum value out of that question. What are the key building blocks? I have already explained. Those are elements, key elements, and then we have connectors. So we have elements. Inside the elements, we have everything like create record, update record, or decision element, or assignment element, or the loop element. They all are type of element. Then we have navigation or connectors, which connects each and everything. So these all are in combination makes you create flows on your screen and do the things you want to do. So explain all the building blocks which you can explain if you get this interview question. Can you give me an example? How would you use flow to create complex logic in organization? When it comes to flow, the interviewers, it is very the difficult part is that interviewer has to understand that what kind of flows you have created, because everybody will be able to tell you the basic flows, but what they want to understand is that have you ever worked on complex flows or not. So they will be looking for your project experience related to flows rather than your actual flow knowledge. Like they'll never ask you what is record triggered flow. Instead, they may ask you that what kind of record triggered flow have you created in your project. Okay. So it is very important that you associate any of your flow answer with your real-time example to get the maximum impact. To create the maximum impact, try to set it up with a practical example. Okay, so can you give me example how would you use flow to create a complex logic in organization? Okay, I will tell you one of my complex logic which we used in flow, and not in this organization but in previous organization. Okay, so we were using Salesforce communities, and there were customers as well. There were so many customers, and what we did was we needed to send them email notification as per their choices. Okay, so on any customer's homepage, there were certain check boxes they need to check whether, let's say, they want to get the promotional mail or not, they want to get the sales mail or not, they want to get the customer satisfactory mails or not. So they were kind of 10 check boxes every customer had. Okay, so what we needed to do is that we needed to create a distribution list. Okay, out of all the accounts, we needed to create the or out of all the accounts and contacts. Basically, account is a customer, and then account is a company, and then contacts were the customers in it. Okay, so we needed to create a distribution list based on each customer's choice of value. Okay, so if, let's say, one customer is interested in customer satisfactory email but not interested in sales email, and there were kind of 10 check boxes like this, we'll have to store the value somewhere for this customer, that what kind of email he is interested in getting. Okay, and then similarly we'll have to do this for all the customers. And these customers were from different domain. One was, let's say, from sales domain, one was from the finance domain. So these checkboxes also varies based on their domain. So we'll have to filter out based on domain, we'll have to filter out based on region, and then we needed to create a complex distribution list which will store all the customers related information. And then based on that we were sending emails to customer. Okay, now, actual sending email was not done in Salesforce. That was done in the outside tool. From Salesforce, we just needed to send the distribution list to that party. Okay, so creating the distribution list was a complex task. My lead was also not sure because he was not very comfortable in flows. He was not sure if we will be able to do that. But given the nature of this task, I thought that, okay, if we use flow, it will be easier for us to at least see in the screen what is happening. And by that, we'll be able to get the data. I thought that, okay, I'll start it as a POC, and then if it works fine, we will see. Otherwise, we will go for an alternate answer, alternate solution. So it was like later on, this solution had to be reviewed by Salesforce as well. So we started with Flow and we made good progress. We got couple of hiccups, but then we were able to actually create a distribution list at the end. And even Salesforce was said that, okay, this is a very good use of Flow. This was the time of 2019, 18 and or 19. Okay, so the flows were not that powerful. So even they were not sure if this could have been done via flow or not. But we were able to achieve that. Salesforce also said that they are really happy. In fact, they put it in their success story that this customer has used flow to do something really complex, and this is a good use of flows. So this keep on varying based on what you have done. This need not to be super tough or something. You can say that, okay, I am using flow in my current organization to do the opportunity automation. Okay, so opportunity automation is something, let's say, whenever an opportunity gets created, there are certain automations we have to do. There are certain auto calculations we have to do, and then when we save the opportunity, there are some related objects we need to update, and there are a couple of email alerts we need to send, couple of related objects data we need to create, or we need to post to chatter, or we need to send some notifications to third party system. This all logic is not done in my flow. We are also using flows, before say flows, to display the validation errors as well. That also eliminates the possibility of using validation tool, okay, which is obviously an additional burden. So with flow we can do so many things, and it is, again, it is also an open-ended question where interviewer will give you an opportunity to explain the extent of your work on flow. Okay, so try to take the maximum advantage of this question. There will be surely a question like this on give me an example of what kind of flow you have created, because he has to understand the complexity you have worked on flows. Based on that, he will frame out their question. Okay, so give some time to this question. Try to frame your answers. Okay, even before the interview, try to frame your answers, and based on that, you will. And see, whenever you talk about complexity, you'll have to explain why it was complex. Okay, because getting data from the backend is not complex. But unless you tell them why it was complex, like I told you, what I did is that I needed to fetch some data from contact. That is not complex. But when I make it complex because it was difficult, because it was based or varies on different regions and different domains, and there were multiple checkboxes, based on multiple checkboxes, output will also vary, then it will become complex. So you'll have to explain why it was complex as well. Okay. All right. The other question is also similar to this. Okay. What are the real world example where you have used flow to solve customer problem? This again depends on your project to project, but literally almost everything which we do via trigger See, first you need to understand that Flow is a process automation tool. So whenever it comes to process automation tool, it does things automatically. Based on your business logic, it will do things automatically. Okay. So you will have to find couple of examples from your real project, or if not, then from Automation Champion, you will be able to find couple of scenarios. Okay, like we created one flow where whenever we close an opportunity, we create a new contract. Okay, that is an automation we did via Flow. So that could come in the real world example. You can even make it bulkified by saying, whenever we were closing the opportunity, there were certain automations we needed to do. Like we need to create a contract, we need to pull the value from opportunity and put it on contract. We also needed to create a task which should be assigned to opportunity owner so that he can work on that contract, get to know that he has to work on that contract, and what will be the next step. So next step will also be copied from opportunity, and then we needed to send an email alert as well to the opportunity owner that opportunity has been closed one. We also needed to inform the opportunity owner's manager that certain opportunity has been closed one, please have a look. So these all automations we did via Flow, and with that, with simple automations, we were able to achieve the all these functionality. Had we needed to write a trigger, that would have been 200 line code. Okay. Our Flow supported all editions of Salesforce. Can anybody help me? What are the different editions of Salesforce? Come on.
Starter.
Unlimited edition. Yeah, unlimited edition, developer edition,
Mm-hmm.
essential edition,
Professional,
starter edition, professional,
enterprise,
and developer.
unlimited, Einstein 1 sales, as in sales one. Einstein 1 is included recently, that AI one.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yes. So obviously Flow is not supported in all editions of Salesforce. Okay, Flow is an automation which you, what is this answer? Flow is not supported in all editions of Salesforce, especially the initial like starter edition and the basic editions. Flow is not supported. It is available in unlimited edition, and I think in the enterprise edition, but I think it is not available in the starter or professional. But have a look in the Salesforce document related to that. But answer is no, it is not supported in every edition or all editions. Okay, which editions it is not supported? It is not supported in professional, it is not supported in starter pack, it is not supported in one more, but then it is supported in unlimited and enterprise. But we can check it. Okay, a complete list.
Yeah, it will be I mean supported by enterprise edition, performance edition, unlimited edition, and developer edition.
And not supported in.
Not apart from this, it will not support.
Okay. Okay.
I'm
Okay.
pasting here. Na?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, paste it. Okay. What happens when you delete a flow in your org?
It will permanently delete, na?
Yep.
All with all versions and all functionality will remove.
Yes.
Recently you shared.
Yep. Deactivate and delete. So what happens when we just deactivate, that will not delete anything, that will just deactivate it. So the functionality will not work, but flow will still be there. But when you delete it, it will be gone. Okay. When you just delete a particular version, then only that version will get deleted. Other version will still remain. Okay. What data restrictions are there when sending information? This has already been covered. Sorry. What are the users? Okay, just a second. Let me go to the next set of questions. what are the different way you can share a flow with other user? Do we share flow with other users? No, right? This could have been like, what are the different way you can invoke flows or put flows on the screen so that users can use it. So you can use flow by as a action. You can directly put it on lightning pages. You can put it on screen experience cloud side, and that also looks like only for the screen flows. Okay, let me delete this. I don't find that useful. When should flow is used over Apex? Now, this is a very important question. Okay. And the flip side of question is when we should use Apex over flow. So let's cover both of these questions together. When we should use flow over Apex, whenever we have a requirement which can easily be done by the flow, and we need not to write Apex, it comes in an it comes already bulkified, flow comes already bulkified. So if we no longer need to further bulkify it, or if we no longer need to use the complex SOQL queries like aggregate queries, or like using the map, we'll have to bulkify it, then we should use flow, because obviously the requirement is simple and can easily be done via flow without writing a single line of code. But there are many situations where we'll have to prefer Apex over flow. First, flow has security concerns. Okay, although in flow you have options to, in the advanced setting you have options to select the uh, options to select the user mode or system mode and everything, but by default it comes in the system mode, let's say. Then you will have security problems, like you can accidentally expose the automation to the users who were not supposed to. In Apex, if you remember, we covered the field level security, or the record level security via with sharing, without sharing. And in the field level, we can use the user mode, we can use a stripe inaccessible and other things. On the field level also, we can check if a particular user has access or not, and then only proceed with the DML. In flow, we still do not have anything like that. Okay, so flows are a basic tool which allows you to do something without much of the hassle. But if you want to make a very strong system which should not expose anything out of your limit, or which should not which should be very secure, then Apex is still a preferred way to do that, because in the flow there are high risk of vulnerabilities, there are high risk of security threat, there are high risk of things going wrong, things getting exposed without intention if we do not plan it carefully. Flows can easily go out of your hand if you do not follow a good design practice in your org. If you do not have a clear cut plan how we are going to build flow, flows can easily go out of your hand. Because let's say we start writing flows for each requirement without having any documentation about it, you yourself will not be able to understand if you have written something for it or not. Maybe you are doing same thing in two different flow. But if it is Apex and you're following a proper naming convention and proper class functionality level breakage, then you know that this is your trigger, this is what it is doing, and if you'll have to add something, you will add on top of it. So flow is still in kind of development stage. They are still giving it a lot of power, and with power comes a lot of responsibility. And whether flow will be able to perform up to that, you can say, the results of flows are yet to be disclosed. It is good in short term. For now we are able to see positive results, but it still has not a mature product. Okay, so the real value, or you can say the real result of flows, are yet to become. So whenever we have to build, let's say you are working for a financial system where you'll have to create a very secure system, I will not recommend you to use flow. Neither Salesforce will recommend you to use flow, because it is good. It is good for normal use cases, but when you want an extra layer of security and everything, it is better to go with Apex, because in Apex you can control each and every field level security as well. That option currently is not available in Flow. Okay, Apex is better in many terms. If you have to do integration via Apex, that is easier for you because you have full control over what you are sending, what you will be receiving, and then you will be unwrapping that JSON, what you are receiving. You can handle the try error catch mechanism as well, and you can do so many things. In Flow, couple of options are still very limited or very new or in the very basic elementary stage. Okay. In Apex, we have maps. So if we have to further bulkify our code, we can use maps and try to avoid loops inside loop, or try to avoid the you can say the uh, queries inside loops and all with the help of map. But in flows, we do not have anything like map. We'll have to iterate over list, which sometimes require us to have loop inside loop, which obviously is not a very good practice. So flow is good for the normal use cases where you do not need a lot of heavy lifting. They are very good when you do not need further bulkification. They are very good when you have to do simple stuff. Okay, whenever you say simple stuff and complex stuff, be very specific, be ready with couple of examples. Otherwise it will be frustrating for interviewer. Everybody says that flow is not good for complex, but they do not have any examples. So if you are saying flow is not good for complex, give them examples. Okay, otherwise it will just be a theoretical knowledge. You will not get the maximum value out of that question. Okay, I have created a video on this on my YouTube as well, when you should choose flow over Apex and when you should choose Apex over flow. Go through that as well. But I guess more or less we are comfortable with this question now. Are we? Or you have any doubt on this? This is important. Like if I say one question, if I have to ask just one question from flow, I will ask this question first. This is that important, because this not only checks the correct answer or wrong answer, but also checks your knowledge on flows. You will only be able to answer it if you have actually faced it. I normally ask this question like, have you ever seen a scenario where you thought that it will be good to do it via flow, but later on you needed to switch to Apex? And very rarely I get answer. Very rarely. Anybody wants to answer that? Ayushi, tell me. If I ask this question to you, have you ever got any scenario where you initially started with Flow but later on needed to switch to Apex?
Uh, no more heads.
Okay, Avdesh, go ahead.
Yeah, Mohit, actually recently we discussed like we do not require test class. It is easy to deployment, and it is a point and click tool, so we can easily maintain it.
Yes, yes, yeah, those
And
very
yeah,
correct.
we have a cross object process as well, like in this. And governor limit as well, like and it is a by default bulkify. So
Yeah, see, there are so many advantages of using Flow. Okay, the
mhm.
question, however, for every one of you is, did you ever encounter any scenario where you started with flow? You thought that flow will be a very good solution, but later on hit the limitation. Later on realized that this cannot be done easily via flow and switched to Apex after that. We did that grandparent trigger.
Yeah,
So if you'll have to find a map between opportunity line item and you can say the account and opportunity, or opportunity line item and the opportunity, if you try to create that map in your flow, you will not be able to do that. So in flow, if you start that requirement, you will start it on the opportunity object. You will get a single opportunity, obviously, because flow is bulkified. You will get a single opportunity. Then you can get the list of account. Then from that account, you can get the list of other opportunities. From opportunity, you can get the list of opportunity line item. And then from the opportunity line item loop, you have to update the account. This will be really difficult because from opportunity line item, you'll have to find the associated opportunity. Then from associated opportunity, you'll have to find the associated account. That for that, you'll have to have couple of loop references. Otherwise, you will not be able to get that. In trigger, it is easy because we can create two map. One map of opportunity ID and list of opportunity line item, and one map of account ID versus list of opportunity. Or we can use aggregate query, which will solve all of our problems. So it actually is easy to do in Apex versus it is really difficult to do it in Flow. So the point here I want to make is that whenever somebody asks you a question with an intention to get some practical insight, then give them practical insight. Otherwise, they will never be satisfied. Okay, sometimes we'll have to understand the intention of interviewer, like why this interviewer is asking this specific question, because he has a point to ask or he wants to see a certain thing. If we are able to understand certain thing and still we are not giving him that thing, then that's a bad thing, because you will never get value out of that question even if your answer is correct. Most of the time when people come to me, sir, I was able to answer everything and everything was correct, yet I was not selected because even though we answered correct, we did not satisfied or we did not answer the intention of the interviewer. Sometimes we'll have to understand the intention as well, like he wants to understand any specific example. And if you are not able to understand also, then explaining something with the help of example is way better than explaining theoretically. Okay, so explain theory, but if you put an example as well in the mix, then it gives an extra flavor to your answer. Okay, getting my point?
Yes, Mohit.
Perfect. Advantage of flow over process builder and workflow rule. See, this is kind of irrelevant question, but some old interviewers may still ask two, three questions. Difference between flow and process builder, difference between flow and workflow rule, and difference between these all three. The couple of old interviewers may still ask this question. Ideally, a good interviewer will not ask, but if you get there are so many differences, and few interviewers are still asking difference between process builder and workflow rule. Okay, so it's okay if they are asking, you can say, okay, flow has so many advantages over workflow rule and process builder. First advantage is in terms of speed. They are way faster than process builders and workflow rules. In order of execution also, they have a different place depending on what we are doing. And in flows, we have an option to call Apex as well. Flow can do so many things which process builder and workflow rules cannot do. Like obviously process builder and workflow rules are the least limited tool. Then we have process builders, workflow is the, you can say, the lowest, and then process builders, and then flow. So in terms of capability, flow is most capable among all these three, in terms of number of action, in terms of how they perform action, in terms of execution time, in terms of order of execution, in terms of resource utilization, in terms of optimization. Flows are way better than process builder and workflow rule. Okay, so I hope when you get this question, you will not stop answering unless interviewer stop you. Okay, what is process automation? And type process automation is basically a term referred in Salesforce to automatically do certain things. And there are various automation tools, workflow rules, process builder, flows, triggers, and approval process, because they do things automatically based on certain rules you define. What is a flow builder? Flow builder is a declarative interface you get to build your flows. So the screen, when we click on new flow and then we select, let's say, record triggered flow, we get that screen where we have option to select element and the manager, and then select object and all those things. That is basically flow builder. So flow builder is nothing but an interface which gives you an option to create flows. Okay. Flow elements and resources. Flow elements, you know that there are various elements like actions, decisions, loop, assignment, And then resources are something which you create your variables, like formula field you created, like a constant you created, like a collection variable you created. Those are resources. So basically there are three basic building block. One is element, one is connector, and third one is resources. With the help of all three, you create your flow. Okay. I want each and every one of you, whenever you get a flow question, you answer in the best possible manner, because that can be the differentiator between you and an average candidate. Average candidate, when he'll get the flow interview question, he will answer it in a normal manner. What is a flow? Flow is this non-configuration tool which we, when my student get a flow interview question, you take the maximum advantage of it. Flow is the latest process automation tools given by Salesforce, which allows us to do process automations automatically by building flows on a flow builder with the help of different elements and resources available, and try to answer it in the best possible manner. That's what I want from you, because this is still relatively new topic. People are not very prepared on this topic. When you answer it well, that creates more impact, and in the feedback they will write it that okay, candidate is really good in flow, he knows the latest things on flow, and definitely is an asset. Okay. So sometimes it's not about answering the right question, but also about answering it in the best possible manner, so that we so that they can find the difference between you and an average other candidate. Okay. Interview is also not about just answering. In the competitive environment, interview is also about beating the competition by answering it in the best possible manner. And nothing can be better than this tough market where there are so many candidates out there fighting for single position. In that situation, you will have to be absolutely best to get the value out of it. Okay. So it is not only about, especially in the easy topics, it is not just about answering question, it is also about how well you can answer it. Okay. Why to use debug in flow? Okay, debug is basically an option by which we debug our flow. So debugging flow is can be done by that debug option. There are multiple options available there. I have shown you, I have explained you, so I hope you will be able to answer it. Okay. Version control in flow, there are different versions we can create in flow, and when we create only one version can be active, other versions will be inactive, and they will be put in the orders you have created. Okay. Can we use lighting component in a screen flow? Yes, in Salesforce we can use, and this should be lighting web component. We can use lightning web component in screen flow to create more customizable and dynamic user experience. Yes. Can we call Apex class through flow? Yes, we can call Apex class through flow, but we'll have to use that invocable method annotation. Okay. And there are a couple of rules. Here are some of the rules that you need to follow when using invocable method. Okay. First, you can only have one invocable method per class. Okay. And the Apex class must be defined as public or global. There can only be one invocable method. The invocable method must be static and public or global, and its class must be an outer class. Yes, inner class will not become, the method of inner class will not be an invocable. So obviously this should be an outer class. There can at most one input parameters to Apex method, and its data type must be of list. This is what we have done practically, so need not to explain much. The data type returned must by the method must also be of type list. This is also you have seen practically. See, because of the question like these, I had to do those things practically in front of you. Otherwise, it would have been really difficult for me to explain this. You will not be able to understand this until we do it practically. So that is why I have done this thing practically first, and then we are coming to question. Last time when we did the flow, we just covered the flow question, because obviously in the interview they only ask the flow interview question. So I thought that it will take a lot of time. Second, even we do so many triggers flow scenario, that will not be advantageous from the interview point of view. But obviously I was wrong, because these kind of questions people were not able to understand properly. Okay, so that is why this time I have gone through those topics first, and then we are going through questions. Okay. which annotation we use. And trust me, if you cover all these questions on flow, then nothing be coming out of those questions on flow. Flow is still relatively very new, and many of you are already giving interview, you can relate to that thing. Okay. Which annotation we can use with Apex class? Obviously, this is invocable method. We all know that. How to class call a flow from another flow using subflow element. But there is a catch. This subflow element is not available in before save flow. So this is only available in the after save flow. If your flow is after save flow, then only you will have an option to add a subflow. So interview question come, can we call a subflow from a before save flow? No, we cannot do that because that will not be available in the element list. Okay. Important actions that can be done in a flow. Flow can do almost everything like creating, updating record, deleting record, calling Apex method, sending email, publishing to chatter, doing HTTP callout. There are so many things now flow can do. Sending outbound message as well. Earlier outbound message was not available. Now you can do outbound message as well. Okay. Can records be shared with user through flow? Records be shared. See, the question is how do we get the record in the flow? So with it, which is at the rate dollar, this is the variable on which we get the current state of record. Whereas at the this dollar symbol and record prior is the previous value of it. It is like trigger dot old and trigger dot new, but just one record in it. Okay. Yes, Manjunath, go ahead. You want to ask something?
I have one question.
Yeah, go ahead.
The question is about can we share a record
Yes,
from
we
flow
can share a
to
record.
the users?
Yes, we
Yes,
can.
it can be.
Yep, we have to create that share record. Like if we are sharing opportunity, then in the backend we'll have to create an opportunity share record, and then we'll have to define with which user or public group we want to share it, and then we will be able to share it.
That is with a share object, right? Through share object.
Yep, through share object. Like we cannot create any sharing rule or something within Flow. We have to create the share record, and by that we'll be able to share it.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the answer here is completely different, right? It is.
So I think the question, see, these answers were put by students. So sometimes they get it wrong. Like sometimes they get the question wrong. How do we get the current? Trust me, guys, all the questions and answers, this was done by all of us together, not only by me. Most of the answers were put by the students only. Questions we put together. I put basic structure and sometimes created couple of questions, and then other students added more questions on it. So this is hard work of students, you all only. Fast field update versus action versus related record. Fast field update is nothing but updating the same objects field versus action. There are different types of actions available. Related record, like this is obviously an irrelevant question. There is nothing like that. You will not get these in a single question. So we'll have those things separated in one by one. What happens when flow fails? When flow fails, it rolls back. Obviously, if we get an exception in a flow, it will roll back. Okay, and it is very important that we have a error catching mechanism. Like I shown you in last session, how do we create an fault element with the flow? So if anything goes wrong, it will create a fault element. Now, if there is no fault element, an exception is happening, obviously that will roll back. Yeah, fast wheel update, yes, is a before save flow, and action related on record is after save flow. Yes, that is true. That is true. The question was not put in a right way. That is why I deleted that. Fast wheel update is nothing but the before save flow. And when you'll have to perform something on related record, that is after save flow. There is no question. Can we set the order of execution of record triggered flow? Okay, there is one option, trigger order. Okay, by which we can set the order of execution in the record triggered flow. Let's say you have couple of record triggered flow on a single object and you want to put an order on it, like this flow should run first, then the other flow, then the third flow. Then you have that option available now to set the order. This, you'll have to remember that this is for one object. Like, okay, so if you are talking about opportunity, then all the opportunity record triggered flow you can set the order. It will not act as a whole order of execution for other objects as well. So this is per object. Okay, you can explore this in your own dev org, going through the flow, and then there is Trigger Explorer. You can go there and you can check this out. Yes, Manjunath, go ahead.
Yeah, I have one question here on the same thing.
Go
This ordering of these flows is support only for the custom flow, so not for the system provided flows. I mean,
Yeah.
system flow cycle.
Right, right, right.
Because this is specifically, I have read this in the article. That's the reason.
See, whatever system flows are, we cannot control that. That is true. Whatever custom flow we create, we can have control over the order of it, but system generated flow will not be in your control. And that is logical as well, right? Like, why will Salesforce allow us to do that? So that is fine. I think we have touched this briefly. Okay, let's go to the. We'll touch this. Let us not go ahead with other things. Let us first focus on the questions. Whichever we'll have to explore, we can mark it in red. Okay, and then we can do that. What are the two paths we have in the record triggered flow? What are the two paths we have in the record triggered flow? One is the success path, one is the fault path. Okay. Sorry, couple of rows are actually misleading. I should have probably gone through this before. Can we debug a flow as another user? Okay, this is what we covered before as well. First, we'll have to enable that option from the process automation setting, and settings, and here we will have one option to enable. Yeah, this is the option. Let admin debug flows as other user. If you mark it as true, then you will get an option to run flow as another user. Otherwise, you will not be able to do that, and that option will be grayed out. Okay. Default workflow user should also be selected, because if in case you are sending an email via the default workflow user, if this is not selected, your email alerts will fail. Okay, but that is a topic for any other day. What frequency we can set in schedule triggered flows? In the schedule triggered flow, we have option to select once, daily, or weekly. So when we create a schedule flow, we can select something once, or something daily or weekly, and also we get to select the time as well. Okay. Record single variable versus record collection variable. See, from the name itself, it is clear that single variable will only be able to store one record. Okay, one record means, let's say, one object or one opportunity or one contact, versus record collection variable means that he'll be able to select multiple record. But same object. Like you cannot have opportunity, account, and everything in a single record collection variable. It will only, because you get to select the object as well. Okay, we have done this practically where we just selected the allow multiple values. If you select allow multiple values, then it will become a record collection variable. Otherwise, it will be a record single variable, but only one specific type. So if you selected opportunity, then it will be a record single variable or record multiple variable for opportunity. But it cannot be like one opportunity and one account in record collection variable. That is not possible. Okay. This is same like Apex. We create list of account, then we can only put accounts there, right? Can we pause and resume a screen flow? This I need to confirm. There was a wait element in the screen flow when I worked on it, but I don't know the recent progress on the screen flow part because I'm not using. Maybe Manjunath, you can clarify if there is option.
Screen flow wait element, even I'm little skeptical here. I have to check that.
Yeah, okay. That is why we have marked in red. Whatever I have marked in red, I will go through them again and will come back to you. Okay. Flow distribution method. In Salesforce, this is about how we're gonna use flow, like where we can use flow. Okay, so first we'll have to distinguish whenever we get this in an interview. Okay, they can ask it in a way that what are the different ways to invoke flow or where we can put flow. So the answer is different from record triggered flow to screen flow. Screen flow we can put in Salesforce, in a lightning page or in a button and all, whereas record triggered flow will run automatically. Okay. Lightning page. Yeah. So the answer is different for different types of flow. You can also share the flow URL with other users, and the URL can access by user. I don't think we now normally use the flow URL. Like we do not provide flow URL directly. Just a second. I just allow you to run flow directly from record and pass the. Yeah, this again is like a record sorry, a screen flow only, whereas you created an action and then put your headless screen to it. See, it is possible that you create a screen flow and do not put a screen on it. Okay, you create a screen flow, you get the and put it on a record page, get the record ID from it and do the processing on that record via flow, but do not put a screen on it. That is also possible. Okay, but the trigger point will be different in that case because that screen flow has been put on a record page. So it will be on a record page, and let's say if you have created a button, on click of button something will happen. It will not happen automatically. REST API flows can be exposed as a RESTful services that can be called from external system. This allows you to integrate your flow with other. This we have not done practically. I cannot say that right now, but I will check this. Platform events is something which we will cover after platform events. So I want you first explain what is platform event and all, then want to show you what is platform event triggered flow. But this works when a platform event record gets created. You can use to trigger a flow. Yes, we can use platform events to trigger a flow. Yes, of course, if that is built on the basis of platform event triggered flow. But we will have to cover this. Explain running user context of a flow. This is also a very important question. The running user of a flow is the user who launched the flow, which can either be the current user or the automated process user. The running user determines what a flow that runs in user context can do with Salesforce data. All flow, with the exception of schedule triggered flow, will run as a current user. Okay, so whenever they ask you what is the running user context of a flow, you will say that by which user that particular flow will run. Okay. Schedule triggered flow will not run as a current user. And see, record triggered flow runs as a in the system context, so they will have access to almost everything. Okay, but when it comes to screen flow and all, you have a lot of options you can provide. Like you can control a lot of security there if you want to run it in the user mode, if you want to run it in the system mode, and a lot of controls you get in the advanced setting. So we have to go through, we have created a screen flow, right? This is part of manage package. Just a second. I want to see a screen flow which is unmanaged, and then we can check it. See, these all are the flow created by the managed package, so they were here by default. Let's see if we get to do something in it. Yeah, so you see this option, how to run the flow. This comes in the screen flow. User or system context depend on how the flow is launched. System context with sharing infos, record level access, and system context without sharing access all data. So if you select system context without sharing access all data, then it will have access to everything. Whereas if you select the system context with sharing, then it will enforce the record level security. Versus if you select the user or system context depends on how the flow is launched, then it depends on how you are launching this flow. Let's say you're launching it on a button click on a particular record page, then this will run in the user context, and the current user who has clicked on the button will be launching it, and then it depends on what access he has will be triggered on it. Okay, so these are the three options, and sometimes you'll have to explain these three options in an interview when they ask how to run the flow. Okay, by default, how the flow is launched determines whether the flow runs in the context of a user. I think that is the answer written there. Okay, yeah, I think that is the answer written there. So spend some time in it. I don't want to feed the answer in you. I want you to go through this and see if this three option makes sense to you or not. And if they are not making sense, any of the option, then you come back to me in the next session, and do not let me start that session without getting the answer of this. Okay? Clear, guys? See, when there is a complex thing, I also want you to put your brain on it so that you get the maximum clarity of that answer. Okay, otherwise it will be just like I am feeding you answer and you will forget that answer the next day. Trust me. What is the flow interview? A flow interview is the running instance of a flow. We talked about is that, let's say we are inserting 200 records, then flow by default creates the 200 instances of that record so that all 200 can be processed together, okay, in a single go. Explain transaction with respect to flow. Each flow interview runs in the context of a transaction. Of course, a transaction represents a set of operations that are, see, we have covered this. What is a transaction? Let's say you have created an opportunity. So on creation of opportunity, whatever process automations runs in the backend in the synchronous manner, they all are part of that transaction. From the moment we clicked on save till it actually gets stored in the database and all the orders of execution get completed, that is known as one transaction. And whatever happening is between is part of that transaction. Okay. Flow connectors are nothing but the lines by which you connect the different element. Okay. How do we create? See, earlier lookup field was not available in the Salesforce screen flow. Okay, so there was limited option and you needed to look up, you'll have to get the record in the backend. But now you can create the lookup fields as well. This was released in Spring 21. So create a flow on which you are creating a lookup field. You will get to explore a couple of options if you do that. This is a kind of, assume that this is a kind of homework, you guys. You'll have to create a screen flow on which we are using a lookup field. Okay. Will you do that for me?
Yes, Mohit.
Thank you. How to handle fault? We have done it practically. How do we handle fault? Normally, we create an error log object and create an error record whenever something goes wrong. But it also depends on what error mechanism that particular company is doing. Sometimes they use uh, um, app exchange packages to do that. Like there is Nebula Logger, if you might have heard. Nebula Logger is to do the error logging. So if they are using Nebula Logger, then Nebula Logger has their own object to do that. Okay. How to redirect Salesforce flow from after completion in the end URL is already known. In Salesforce, you can redirect a flow to an external URL after it has complete using a screen element called redirect. I'll have to check that. So maximum how many records we can process through flows. See, there is no limit as such. In one chunk, it processes 200 records. Okay, same as trigger. So the limit applies same as trigger here as well. Okay. This is the duplicate. There was a fast lookup data element available in the flow earlier. It was an old feature. Okay, since flow has become record before save flow and after save flow, that option is not available anymore. Okay. All right, then we will cover a couple of rest of the questions later, along with the questions which I have marked in red. But I think by the next session, we'll be able to complete all these. We have covered till 42. 42 is a repeated question. But if you guys have any question on any of these 42, do not take it lightly. You'll have to note it down. You'll have to come back to me and ask. Okay. I know flow is kind of easy question, but in an interview, I don't know why people are not able to tell the way I want them to tell. So you will not do that. We will cover rest of the questions along with the questions I have marked in red tomorrow. Okay. Let me.
Mohit, what is that question number 40?